In my eternal quest to make sure I hate this game to my very core, by the time I hit 40 I decided that it would be a great idea to go and do a Frenzy Barbarian. But it won't be just a casual playthrough where I beat Baal and then pretend things are fine. No, I've done that before, and so have many of you. As a wise man once said, it's time to nut up or shut up. I thought for a second and realized that there was only one thing I could do. It's time to start doing runs up to the Ubers. If you don't know, the Ubers are 3 endgame bosses that Blizzard implemented cause we got too degenerate at the normal game and they figured that just grinding ourselves to a pulp wasn't good enough. We needed the gaming equivalent of getting kicked in the flaps as a boss fight. Now this requires a normal playthrough all the way up to hell, a bunch of grinding and finally 2 sets of 3 bosses. So go grab some beverages and make yourself comfortable, cause this is a long as balls run. As always, we have to get through the character creation screen first to find ourselves in Act 1 of Normal, where we quickly shish kebab a couple fallen and some quill rats to roast over the campfire we just left behind before heading to Akara to get our first weapon of the run. Scepters are the early game bludgeoning tool of choice for the person educated in violence. Its minimum of 6 damage is on par with the maximum our hand axe could ever do, making it an easy pickup this early in the game. I decide to tell Corpse Fire all about it while clearing the Den of Evil, and after having picked up a second one, it is time to fight Rakanishu until I reach the 6th of levels and unlock my first skill. Double Swing is a skill that has you consistently introducing the laws of gravity, blunt force trauma, and your enemies' skulls to each other in a polite yet satisfying way. Masteries are a thing of beauty and simplicity when you know which weapon type you are going to be using for the foreseeable future. To support my swinging lifestyle, I'm also pumping into Mace Mastery for the huge pile of attack rating, bit of damage and critical strike. While things are starting to come together and are starting to get going, I need to head into the tower for some runes to get some real gear that will at least carry me through normal. I'll show what I'm going to do with them when we get to Act 2. Barbarians have quite the shopping list down in the tower. The runes I need are Ith, El, Tuat and Fortel runes. I'll explain why once we use them. The Countess was feeling generous and started dropping 2 to 4 runes every single run, allowing us to move on after just a few runs. And of course all of them went smooth and without any problems. While I don't want to use my Imbue just yet, on a long run like this, it seems like a much smarter idea to keep it in the bank for when we know what we need to get into the Ubers fight. So after defeating the smith, I give Charcy my hammer, but tell her we can't use it now. The rest of the act is just a matter of casually making our way through the catacombs before fighting the first of many big bad demon bosses. We do reach level 17 here, which means it's about time to explain the wonderful world of stealth to you. Stealth is an armor rune word that has 25% faster cast rate, which is about as balanced as weighing witches while thinking they are made of wood. But we are ignoring that part today, cause we are a real burly bald manly man. The parts I am interested in are the faster run walk, cause that is just a gift from the heavens themselves in this game, and the 30% poison resist, cause our first boss's favorite song is Toxic by Britney. Speaking about which, she is calling right now. The most dangerous thing about Andariel is convincing your parents in the olden days and your partner in the newen days about how it is vitally important to the story that she is a nudist. Some swinging action with her results in a fiery explosion, and after all that excitement, it is time for me to calm down and focus up again before getting into the desert. To do that, I need to ask you one question. After spending your day grinding the durance of hate for loot, have you ever thought to yourself, it's not enough. I won't be able to sleep without Mephisto's beautiful silky smooth buttery voice repeating during my dreams as well. Imagining the laughter just doesn't do it for me anymore. I need the real thing or things are going to go very bad very soon. Well, that is pretty weird. But you're not alone. I too am very bad at sleeping. But one thing that has helped me out a ton is the sponsor of today's video, Manta Sleep. Thanks to their sleeping masks, you can now embrace the true glory of being a basement dwelling loot grinder that has never seen the light of day. Cause even during the day, these masks block every sliver of light. Here, I'll give you a point of view. What is that you are hearing, you ask? Well, I promised you the voice of Mephisto, and I am a man of my word. But how are we hearing the buttery voice of the Lord of Hatred on repeat ad infinitum? Well, that's the genius part. The mask has 2 built-in speakers. All you have to do is connect it via Bluetooth and the world is your player's 8 chest. Everything you want could be inside. The mask itself is very soft. These days I even prefer it over the feeling of fresh air and just wear it all day every day. And don't worry about being a big brain gamer. The mask has you covered. You can take the insides and adjust to whatever way you see fit. If you too want to skip Nightmare and get a great night's sleep, you can use my link in the description and the pinned comment. Don't forget to use code NUCLEAR for 10% off. Thank you to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to business. After having made our way through the first act, it is of course time for the second. The first thing to do in act 2 is walk in and out of town a bunch of times, because every time I repeat that loop, Farah gets a new inventory and I am looking for 2 specific things. Well, one thing, but twice. Both will even have thrice the sockets. The weapons I'm referencing here are 3 socket flails. A common strategy to get barbarians through normal is to make the Malice rune word by combining the Id, Al and Ed runes. This weapon sports some enhanced damage, minus target defense, attack rating and a trio of extremely powerful mods in 100% open wounds, prevent monster heal and minus 100 monster defense per hit. I'm really hoping it won't come to it, but Malice is a valid weapon for the Ubers. The only problem it has is that its base damage is very low. Wait Rabbit, what are you talking about? This is one of the earliest rune words in the game. You're not serious that this can do the almighty fearsome Ubers, right? Well, yeah, it absolutely can. Now prevent monster heal while being very powerful does not work on the Ubers, but a 100% of open wounds is a very consistent way to prevent the massive, ridiculous asshole-ish amounts of life gain the Ubers have. And Malice is one of the best in the game at applying it because of the minus 100 to monster defense per hit. That is not a one-time thing, nobody cares about the exact number, but let's say Uber Diablo starts at 5000 defense. Again, I have no clue if that is the actual number, I don't care. Now if we hit him 50 times with Malice, his defense will be 0, which means our weapon will almost always connect. Chance to hit only goes up to 95% after all for melee characters. Because it's always hitting the enemy, the open wounds will be triggering a ton, which in turn will not only stop the life regeneration, but because it's getting applied so consistently, it will actually drain the Uber's life. Meaning that strangely enough, now that we have reached all the way into Act 2 normal, we have access to the most budget of budget Uber weapons that will get the job done. If only I had brought it into the fight with me, I would probably have had a much easier time. The other weapon I'm making is 3 Tal runes in a flail. They deal 75 poison damage each, but because poison is based on frames, it ends up being 225 and some change and the game rounds it up. There is nothing fancy about this weapon, but my Act 1 weapon did about 11 damage and this deals up to 240. Sometimes things don't need to be pretty, they just need to get the job done. Finally making our way out into the desert, I smack some beetles and they drop some heavy gloves. Blood fists have 40 life and 10 increased attack speed, a good set of starter gloves. As you might imagine, after increasing my damage by at least 20 times, the rest of Act 2 was nothing much special, so I picked up the usual groceries, followed that up by squashing a bug and moved on to Act 3. The poison flail just carries you through normal, so Act 3 went exactly the same. I did my good deed for the day by picking up some trash from the ground before hitting level 24. Level 24 unlocks the main skill of the run, Frenzy. Despite me having some personal gripes with Frenzy requiring too many points to complete the build even at level 99, it is still an amazing fun build to play cause it makes you run and attack really fast. It forces you to have 2 one-handed weapons, which means that a lot of the really high damage options are out, which makes it great for the spirit of a solo self-found run like this, cause it really forces you to dig into some weird ones and dig into some cool underused stuff. I'm getting ahead of myself though. For now on screen you've seen me zooming through Act 3 and dealing with good old Mephisto while he's still easy. I'm gonna enjoy kicking his ass while it lasts, cause once we get to Tristram it will not look this clean. In Act 4 I deal with Ezual for the 2 skill points and take care of Hephaestus for the gems from the Hellforge. The tower shield that dropped is Saigon's. We can't use it to attack with because it's a shield and all, but it does have +1 to skills, which is good for buffing our war cries once we start getting into those. Thanks to my newfound gems, I get to craft some gloves. I go for gloves because they always spawn with Crushing Blow, which is a mod that makes you hit for 12.5% of the current life total of the monster. So if I hit Diablo and he has 40,000 health, I deal 5,000 damage. But if I hit him at half his life total, meaning he has 20,000 health, I only deal 2,500 damage. This is of course a crazy strong effect and we will spend all run trying to get as much of it as we can, up to a 100% of the time if we can get it. I still didn't run into any trouble in the Chaos Sanctuary, so I made my way through that no big deal. What was a big deal though was my first encounter the Big D, and it's not Friday night, so I'm talking about Diablo, not the other thing. Wouldn't be my first encounter with either though. Anyway, Big Daddy Diablo has me ready for a pounding and all I can do to stop him is weave between his shots and giving him a little peck, a little love tap if you will, whenever I can with the poison and the open wounds. Then dodging again while both of them tick his life total down. Can you see why I would prefer not to do the Ubers like this? It takes forever on Diablo in normal. Take a guess on how it goes when there's 3 of them and they all have a gazillion babillion health. Not a fun time for sure. I kept this up for a while and it mostly went fine except for the part where I died. But that never happened, so after a bit of waiting for the poison and open wounds to do their thing, another one bites the dust. It will be a long time before I spend the socket reward. No clue what I will be needing for the final fights after all. Not like I'm a vampire that can gaze into the future. So after shanking Shank, I make the really poor man's version of a Shaco. Not much drop from the Eldritch runs, but I did end up using the gold to gamble some nice 32% magic fine boots to complement my helm. After a bit more of grinding Eldritch like I'm at the disco and not Diablo, I get to level 31 and can put on those fancy orange gloves I crafted. Not much else going on in the act for now, except for ignoring that I encountered some much better frenzy barbarians and paid my homage to them as any man would by doing some very low to the ground groveling. Nothing else happened in the act though, so let's just move things along towards Nightmare. In the Den of Evil, I celebrate reaching the 2nd difficulty with Mr. Corpsefire by giving him lots of very enthusiastic high fives. But that wave of euphoria is short-lived. My weapons, that were great for normal, are not exactly great for Nightmare. I had no problem beating up an old decrepit man living in a cave, but all the other monsters are a different story. What I'm trying to say is, it is time to upgrade some weapons, and honestly a lot of other gear. The first thing I tried was to get a decent ring by saving Cain. Didn't get anything good, but it's a consistent strategy that's easy to go for. And consistency is the most important thing in getting a barbarian run going. You need a plan and a way to execute it, otherwise you're going to spend 80 hours and 40 respecs to keep switching weapons all the time out of pure nostalgic sadness. And that's okay, I've done runs like that, they can be fun for sure, but we are here with a goal today. So what I'm going to be doing instead of that is give our good friend the Countess a visit. And just like in normal, we are going in with a big shopping list. This time around we want some Ore, Thule, Am, a Soul, a Hell and an Io if we can get it. So we are going to be here for a bit. While I'm going at it, I'm also still just doing the whole slight upgrades over time, become big upgrades over time thing. Starting out with some 30 faster run, half freeze and 24 magic fine boots. They're lower on the magic fine than what I'm wearing, but I will take faster run walk over basically any mod in the whole game. Half freeze duration is nice as well. After spending some time beating women in a basement, I ended up with quite the rune reserve. I don't have a Hell or Io rune yet. But thanks to the power of upgrading, I get to make the Shale runes into a 3rd doll and I can use those to make my Hell rune. With said Hell rune, I get to make the Myth rune word. A nice mid-game armor for the Barbarian thanks to its +2 to skills. The rest of the mods on it aren't very good. But that's why I said mid-game, not end-game. We will need to upgrade this for sure at some point. Should be fine for Nightmare though. I found a 4-socket sword in the Tower Cellar level 5 and the Barbarian gets to wear 2-handed swords in one hand, cause like me, he is just used to holding bigger things than other people. This allows him to be the 2nd captain privilege in the game that gets to wear 2 spirits very early on. I've shown Spirit basically every video I've ever made and gave it its own tier when I was doing runeword tier lists. And for good reason, this runeword has it all. Plus 2 skills, life, mana, a bunch of elemental damage. Life Leech that doesn't work with any of that, because the base damage is very low and Leech only works with physical damage. It's perfect. Well, for now at least. The other weapon I decided to make is actually a much stronger melee weapon. Strength has 25% crushing blow, making it better than 99% of all weapons out there. There's also some other stuff I'll talk on for a bit so you can check to read it. Hope you're done reading, cause let's go. I had been putting points into the mace mastery, but as everyone with the keenest of eyes can see, these weapons are swords and not maces, so it is time to spend for the first respec. Stat wise, I'm doing strength for gear, as little vitality as I can get away with and the leftovers into dexterity for more attack rating. Skill wise, I do the exact same thing as I just had, so much so even that I forget to go into the weapon mastery and build back into the mace mastery. Well, crap, that is not good. To fix this dumb mistake, I do exactly what I just talked about not wanting to do and do my Nightmare respec as well to get the sword mastery and vow to myself to never talk about this moment again. With my mid-game gear mostly fixed and ready to go, it is time to wrap up some loose ends in Act 1. So one death later in the catacombs, we are heading out to the desert. Here things are business as usual. For some reason you don't get an even selection of mercenaries with their auras, so we whiff on getting the one we want the first time. But a few rerolls later, we find ourselves in the Maggot Lair doing everybody's favorite thing in the world of working through every single enemy one at a time, cause that's fun or something. The mid-game gear didn't quite hold up as well as the low-level gear did. In the Arcane Sanctuary, we get our first taste of the good old Barbarian way of life. Little dealing damage, lots of annoying taking forever to get through things and swishing all of that down with a nice little dose of death. Now, we were already planning to do a lot of grinding for gear after beating Hellbale, but this was just a nice demonstration of why. Speaking of better gear, on the second run through the Sanctuary, a unique Great Maul dropped to the floor. This is a Steel Driver, a fantastic weapon with a crap ton of damage and increased attack speed. But while the Barbarian can hold two-handed swords with one hand, he cannot hold two socket mauls with one hand. So there will be no hammer smash phase going on tonight. If only though, man, that would be sick. There are some great hammers in the game. Andariel ended up dropping a rare heavy belt that turned out to have triple resists and some life. No really high numbers on any of it, but hey, this is Act 2 Nightmare. Gonna take what we get. Now, I have an admission to make. My footage for Act 3 and 4 got corrupted, and I thought about recreating it by running them back, but nothing much happened in them anyway. Just some small gear upgrades, but the middle of Nightmare truly is the boring part of the run, so it's pretty whatever. With that, we are in Act 5, where the Shanks are no longer alive with the sound of violence, so he won't exactly be singing for 1,000 years anymore. Now normally I would be happy having reached level 50 in Act 5 Nightmare and would be chomping at the bit to get into the late game. But we are playing a frenzy barbarian, and the chance to hit enemies calculations involve your and the monsters whose skull you are trying to smash in's level. It's very complicated to explain fully, but it boils down to low level bad, barbarian do lots of missing. High level good, barbarian do much less missing. So it is time to do some Eldritch running. During this I pick up a helm that is yet another small upgrade. We still don't have any special piece of gear though. Don't worry, you really didn't miss out on anything, cause I lost some footage. Everything is going to be okay. One important thing I did do was putting a point into Berserk along the way for the magic damage it provides. This helps me work my way through physical immunes. During the grind I also found a 4-socket Yari, and I decided to make an insight in it to upgrade my mercenary's weapon. Well, turns out even the most seasoned of veterans forget that you can't put it in spears, cause we can't have the spear Amazon be any good after all. Gotta make sure that one sucks. One thing I should mention gear wise is that I picked up 2 pieces of Saigons along the way. Together they give 30 increased attack speed and 10 life leech, which is nice. And now I know the eagle-eyed viewers see some Hasaurus boots and an axe in there. It is the unique Guardian Naga, which I will be switching out the second I find something that is even remotely resembling a good weapon. Like this sword that dropped and has damage, amplified damage and cold damage. Lots of damages for lots of great times. I always make sure to have one source of cold damage for crowd control purposes. For the farm I also made a magic finding armor by putting 4 topaz into a gothic plate, getting me up to 126 of the good stuff. This immediately gets rewarded with a unique partisan, the Pierre Tombal Coin, which means newspaper in French, which I thought was current with the R in there. Nonetheless, a weird name for a not so weird weapon. If only it was a one-hander, I would slap a baby and then this on as well in a heartbeat. But too bad, so sad, we have to actually pretend to want to be in the Christmas spirit on this one and give that beautiful plus to skills, damage and deadly strike to Durga, which makes the smallest of violins play in the distance. My next potential final boss weapon shows up as well in the form of the General's Jade Tandu Liga, which as a Dutchman reminds me of cookies every single time. That is just cause I got hit by this weapon though, making me a bit slow. Nothing else on this thing matters in the slightest, but 50% slow is so strong that on its own merit carries it towards being a reasonable-ish, and that is a big-ish, weapon. I do hope to find some better form of slow though. The rest of the act is spent saving the resistance scroll, reliving last Thursday by beating some old man and becoming much too acquainted with tentacles and the big Baal hanging behind them. Fighting him was pretty floppy, and for completing Nightmare I got rewarded with 20 increased attack speed, 28 fire resist, 25 magic find gloves, which I put on over the Saigon gloves. After clearing out the final nonsense of Nightmare, I upgraded the Brimstone Stinger. The damage is still sad for getting into hell, but not as sad. Someday we'll be a strong boy though, don't worry. I also did some Pindle skin runs to get some levels going. During this I found the unique Fusina, known as the Kelpie Snare. This has 75% slow enemies, meaning that everything hit by our mercenary will be going at a quarter of its normal speed, which is great, cause I like it when I just get to pummel bosses instead of having an actual fight with them. This is basically guaranteed to be our Merc's weapon against the Ubers. One piece of gear down, all the others to go. Time to get into hell. I'm sure after that massive upgrade to our loadout, there won't be any problems at all there. It'll be fine. not even 5000 attack rating, and an average of about 300 damage with resistances hitting the sweet -40 and 0. Yeah, we might need to work on some things. To start improving things, I decided that I would need some Cannot Be Frozen. The easiest way to get it these days is by making the rune word Hearth, which gives you life, some more life, cold resist, and the much coveted Cannot Be Frozen. So let's check in again. Yes, just everything but fire resist in the red. Perfect. There is a rhyme and a reason towards this madness though. I shouldn't be going into hell this early on. But we are going to be doing a lot of farming here anyway because of what we need to do to even get to the Ubers. To get to the Ubers and their much coveted standard of heroes, in a quest never done before in the history of Diablo 2 ever. We need to collect 3 limbs and put those together to open a portal. What is that? Kalim's calling from Act 3? No, don't answer him, just hang up the phone. Anyway, like I said, an all new inventive quest that has never been done before. But where are these limbs? Well, they are behind 3 portals, which open by using 3 keys, the Keys of Destruction, named after the Lord of Destruction expansion pack of the game, and definitely not after Baal, the Lord of Destruction. Don't worry, these get mixed up all the time. The Keys of Hatred, named after the end boss of Diablo 4, Mephisto, who is definitely in that game, don't check, and the Keys of Terror, which are named after a Dutch music genre. And just to make it extra clear, yes, that is all a load of crap. They are obviously named after the 3 final act bosses of the game. Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, Diablo, the Lord of Terror, and Baal, the Lord of Destruction. So the plan is to get those keys. All of them are only dropped by one enemy in the entire game, with the first one being the Countess. Yes, the one we all farmed anyway for all the runes she drops, that one. But first, there was a Mephisto Terror Zone, and I just never skipped those. It started out with an Oculus, the Sorceress class specific weapon. Then some nice rare boots with resistances and 20% faster run walk found their way into my collection. A unique ring followed that up. It turned out to be a 6419 Nagel. We also got a less than ideal fix for our resistances if things ever got so dire. Wizard Spike gives 75% resist all, which is just fucking nuts. As a barbarian, we could even wear 2 if we want, and just be done resistance wise for the rest of the game. If only the Ubers didn't have 650,000 health and life regeneration, making the damage on this dagger look just a little bit too puny. Could be used in a pinch for resistances though. Finally dropping us a good weapon after spending way too much time looking for one in Nightmare and Early Hell. Mephisto delivers the goods and drops a unique Adagon, which is the Djinn Slayer. Now while this Slayer won't exactly be making it rain blood, it at least has some damage, with extra racism to demons, a bunch of fire damage, some mana leech and 4 lightning absorb with 2 sockets. Is this the best weapon in the game? Well, fuck no. But I just upgraded a rare claymore with a 100 enhanced damage. This is like getting Thor's actual hammer in my hand instead of last time he promised me a hammer. He ended up dropping one of my favorite items in the whole game as well, the Crante Vomir, which is French for fear of vomiting. That name isn't wrong though, cause this thing is sick. It has everything you want on a weapon. Faster run walk, a ton of increased attack speed, a bunch of damage. Slows target by 35%. The very underrated 70 to monster defense per hit. Just like on Malice, not a one-time thing. This will get their defenses to 0, making you hit them a lot more. And it even has 10% physical damage reduction on there. I love this thing. If only the base damage was higher, this would be one of the weapons I would be looking to vomit some damage from every single time. 10 out of 10 S tier weapon on the feelings of a dormant scale. The damage makes me sad though. Despite that, still the best Uber weapon we have found so far by a mile. The second item that is basically guaranteed to make it into the Uber fight, either on me personally or on a mercenary, is the unique Death Mask. This is another one of those I love this, but it's just not keeping up with the top tier items. However, it's tailor made for Uber Tristram. Slows target and lightning resist are always welcome. I hadn't mentioned it yet, but we will need 300 of it. Yes, that is no joke. We need 300. I'll explain later. There is 20 lightning absorb as well. Absorb of any sort is always very strong, so happy to see it. The first actual factual real weapon of the run ends up dropping right at the end here, a unique mighty scepter. Heaven's Light has either 1 or 2 sockets, so we got a bit unlucky on that end. But even then, 20 increased attack speed, an actual good amount of damage, a rare sight in one-handed weapons, minus 33% target defense to help you hit things, a pile of crushing blow and just a sprinkling of racism to both teams. We obviously don't care about the paladin skills, but this is still an excellent weapon that has a very big shot at being one of my final 2. Nothing is sure of course, who knows what we'll find along the way, but I would be surprised to find something stronger than this. With the hour of power over, it is time to go and do what we do every night, Pinky. It is time to grind. In game this time. For some tarot keys, and we will pick up runes along the way. I make it look like things were done very fast thanks to the power of editing, but I ended up grinding the countess for almost 12 hours, some of the worst key luck I have ever seen. I ended up needing to do so many runs that I was done on runes for the entire rest of the run as well. The countess runs themselves weren't very hard either, just walk down to level 5, give her my beloved high fives, in the face, with a mace, cause that is the place, and grab loot for days. Thanks to all the available new runes I got to make a new armor for myself. Lionheart has 20% enhanced damage. Yes, that is damage not defense on the armor. A huge pile of stats. 50 life and 30% resist all. Not quite what we want for the Uber fight, but this will get us through hell no problem. On the screen you can now see my character has the assassin skill fade, meaning that we trade in our good looking on screen muscles for some opacity. But why would we do that? Well, because it nets us 15% physical damage reduction and 50% resist all. We get this skill from an armor called Treachery that also has 40% increased attack speed and some cold resist. What we are going to do during the Ubers fight is put this on, trigger the fade and then switch into the Lionheart when I don't forget about it. What I am trying to say is, ladies and gentle people, we have our armor. That slot is 100% done. Look at how beautiful those stats are now. Things are slowly but surely, but mostly slowly coming together. Anyway, I just kept grinding and hours upon hours later, I had found more runes than I knew what to do with and 3 tarot keys, so we get to move on. Keys of Hate are our next target. These can be found in the Arcane Sanctuary by defeating the Summoner. Our Diablo 1 wizard himself isn't very hard to beat, but when I tried going for repeated runs, most of them were so awful that I decided to just move on with my life for now. Due to all the extra horsing around, I have reached level 79 with max resist all and about 2000 life. I thought for a while about how I would make it all look exciting and hip and stuff, but they won't be, and I would be lying to you if I pretended they were. I usually beat the game about 17 to 20 levels below this on softcore with much worse gear. What I am conveying here is a simple thing, and I'll try to say it gently. I completely fucking waffle stomped the rest of the main game. I'll go through the highlights, but nothing is stopping me at this point. Andariel died and dropped a sick ring with dual leech and some fire resist. I'm sure I'll need to upgrade this again, but I love rings like this. Some souls got in the way of things in the forest, but before long I found myself at the Git bin. A unique ring dropped in the Flayer jungle. It turned out to be a dwarf star. Life and fire absorb. Yes, please. Maybe I should have waited to do the Git bin quest in the hope of rolling a better ring. Maybe next time. But this wasn't it. Dolls ended up touching me in weird places. But I'm so overpowered. This level of egregiously sloppy play doesn't punish me. At the end of the act I decided that Mephisto would love a reenactment of the arrow to the knee meme, but just like he is, in a special variation where I make it a mace in the face instead. He is now all like I used to drop good loot, but then I took a mace to the face. No worries though, I'll just come back again, and again, and again, until I have all the gear I need. Like this second bone knife, I still really hope I won't need to go that route, but if there is no other way, I now have the option of grabbing 150 resist all from just my weapons. Damage not included though, so I'd rather not. Who knows how many runs later, some set battle boots drop. These are Alder's boots, the only good item from that whole set of sadness. These get 40 to 50% fire resistance, and we got lucky and rolled a perfect 50%. Diddy Diablo hates it. Just on that alone, these would be very good but niche for when you need fire resist. However, they also sport 40 faster run walk, 50 life, which is just insane on boots, and 10% damage taken to mana, which means that if we take a knuckle sandwich to the face, 10% of that flows back into our mana pool. The other mods are cute as well, but more just general quality of life stuff. In Act 4 I dealt with everybody's Diablo 3 reject, and 2 minutes later I almost killed one person by accident when I go and leave myself the worst town portal on the planet, or hell in this case, which I give 0 points. Mathematic tomfoolery aside, I move my arms around really fast towards Mephisto and his sparkling ball drops as he finally hits puberty and death. The Hellforge dropped me a Lamb rune. I found a set amulet in the Chaos Sanctuary. An angelic amulet would be a fantastic find, but instead it's Sivherbs, which is just Brevik's name backwards. I don't get why you would name such a sucky set after yourself though. I would have definitely gone for something cooler if I was him. I can see a rabbit father or a rabbit force being a thing for sure. I would definitely make nuclear and rabbit rune words as well, but that's besides the point. Anyway, I finish the act and head into Act 5, where I make my third shanking shank joke. Along the way I did save Anya, and if this was purely an Uber run, this is where the main game would end and we would head into the key farm thanks to her red portal. But I figured with the end being so close, I might as well just round things off nicely. The ancients tried very hard, didn't get very far, and didn't matter in the end. They are a nice point for me as the narrator to show the build and what things are looking like right now. So here you go, we've reached level 82 and are playing a very cookie cutter frenzy build. The only big difference I do compared to most people is that I will emphasize once again is that I put way more points into dexterity than most people to help out with my attack rating. The only point of life that matters is your last one after all, and dexterity always helps in the chance to hit department. I know this goes against the grain, but my melee character started play so much nicer when I just focus on getting as much attack rating and chance to hit as possible instead of just being a tank. The meta is all about hitting as much life as possible, but things that are dead don't deal damage as far as I know, just like Baal here. With the main game done, it is time to really start focusing on our goal here. So what do we actually need for the Ubers? We need to go looking for the following things. 300% lightning resistance, because Uber Mephisto's aura farm goes crazy and he drops all your resistances by 125. Combined with the minus 100 from being in hell that always applies, means that to be at 75% against him, we need 300 in total. He lowers all your other resistances as well, but his lightning attacks are the only ones that really hurt. The next things we are going to have to go looking for is as much crushing blow and open wounds as we can get our hands on. A 100% would be best for both, but is highly unlikely unless I equip the Malice, so as much as I can get is the goal. Now you might think, why not just use prevent monster heal on the Ubers? Well, because it doesn't work. It just doesn't apply to them. A thing I wish I knew before writing and editing this script. Nothing to be done about that now though. Those are the baseline things we need, but they don't guarantee anything. One of the big problems we are going to encounter is that the monsters just spawn in, so you can't go and just chew your way through them and then work on the bosses. It doesn't work like that. You need a plan. I do have one of those, but I'll explain later. For now though, now that we will need to farm essences to get another respec before heading into the fight. I like bringing some slow enemy along for the ride as well, but Hazard has that covered with his Kelpie snare, so no need to worry about that. Our work is cut out for us, so it's time to grind again. With the entire base game defeated, I get to farm whatever I feel like whenever I feel like it. For starters, I dipped back into Mephisto. However, he only dropped some scarab shell boots. Those would be good for Lilith, one of the mini Ubers. If only I had remembered I had them when I went into the fight. But that's getting ahead of myself. It might be boring, but Lower Kurast is just the de facto best place in the game to farm runes, gems, charms, jewels, gold and apparently matriarchal javelins. These aren't for my Barbarian, but some thunderstrokes dropped from a rack here. Fun stuff. Counting your runs used to be a thing, but I well and truly can't be bothered. So I can't tell you how many runs later it was, but I ended up dropping a sad ring which turned out to be an Angelix, the first half of the Angelic combo. Of the two, it is the easiest part to find, so who knows if we will get the amulet. Oh, never mind, there it is. These two combine to give you 75 life, which is pretty sweet, but the ring set bonus is where it's at. It will give you an obscene amount of attack rating, thanks to scaling with your level. It is one of the biggest attack rating boosts in the entire game, and it will even save the run when things are at their most dire. While about as fun as watching grass dry and paint grow, Lower Kurast just gets the job done. A weapon rack nets me a 3-socket Scourge. I decide to put a hustle rune word in there. It's not a good weapon for the Ubers, but at least it will make the grind for items much better. After all, I've heard a ton of rumors that having 2 good weapons instead of 1 and a wet pool noodle is a good strat. Could be something to them. Thanks to all the gems I'm collecting, I get to craft gear as well. Just like me on any given Saturday, these are called Pain Claws. Crushing blow stats, life and resistances, what's not to love? My dual leech ring gets an upgrade into the Viper Touch, a 2 mana 5 life leech, 14 dexterity and 11 resist all ring. That was enough of Kurast for me, so I headed back towards the Durance of Hate, where Mephisto dropped me a second Grant of Omir. Now I can use both of them together if I wanted to, but the damage still isn't very good, so I'd rather keep the search for a weapon going. With all the grinding, it's just a matter of time before more and more gear slots start getting filled. Like here, when a unique Grim Helm drops. This is the Vampire's Gaze. It gets 6 to 8 life and mana leech, so we rolled good on the mana and bad on the life. This helm gets 15 to 20% physical damage received reduction as well. We had a mediocre roll on that, but combined with the 15 from Fate that Treachery gives us, we are well on our way to hitting the cap of 50. If it turns out that our resistances are all just big sadness, the Set Death Mask might be a route we could go. Talrash's Mask has life mana, 10 dual leech and 15 resist all. Between the two helms, it is now just a matter of what we end up needing towards the fight. If we end up finding a ton of physical damage reduction, we can get some more resistances from our Tal mask. If we end up with our resistances all pumped to max, we can go with the gaze. Both of these paths have a problem though. Our Hearth Helm is the only source of cannot be frozen we have found so far, and we absolutely can't go in without cannot be frozen. We might as well just take everything we've done and flush it down the toilet, cause there is no way we are getting the job done without it. So to go and wear any of the fancy cool helms we've found, we will need to find another source of cannot be frozen. Now usually you would just go for a Rhyme shield and be done, but Rhyme only goes in shields, so that would be a bold strategy for us on the Frenzy build that requires 2 weapons to even do a single attack. While the hustle was fun while it lasted, one of the greatest uber killing uniques in the game ends up dropping. The unique Barbed Club. While it looks unimpressive at first due to the low damage and druid skills which we won't be using, we can still upgrade this to a Tyrant Club which will drastically improve the damage output. And if we just don't focus on the druid skills, this mace is a melee character's wet dream. Enhanced damage, 35 to 50 flat damage, which doesn't sound like a lot but gets applied before any form of enhanced damage, which is why even as a mid-tier base item, this thing is dealing more damage than most endgame one-handed weapons. After that we get 20% crushing blow and 20% deadly strike, which means that 20% of the time we deal double damage. There is also the open wounds I talked about on here, 25% of it to be exact. I have a way of putting more on there, but I'm not spending anything until I'm good and ready, so that will happen during the final round of checks at the start of the fight. If you farm long enough, things will drop, like this unique amulet that turns out to be a High Lord's Wrath, plus 1 skills, increased attack rating, lightning resistance and deadly strike per level, meaning that now both weapons deal double damage about once every 3 hits. I can't think of a single amulet I would take over this. A very welcome addition to the gear, and between High Lords and Angelics I'd say our amulet slot is taken care of. Another fantastic helm joins the party when a salad drops. Rockstopper is basically Vampire Gaze's defensively slanted little brother. It has faster hit recovery, vitality, a pile of resistances and 10 physical damage reduction. I had found one of these earlier as well, but the footage got corrupted, so I was very happy to pick up the second one to be able to show it off. The cold and lightning resist roll between 20 and 40. The fire resist gets to go up to 50 for some reason. The second one has better fire and cold resist, but no one gives a shit about any of that. We just want lightning resistance, so I'm sticking with my first one. Our belt slot gets taken care of when a unique Demon Hide sash hits the ground. String of Ears has life leech and rolls between 10 to 15 physical damage reduction. We got 13%, which is as middle as the road as it gets. Between Fade, Gaze and this, we are at 45 physical damage reduction with 50 being the cap, which would be amazing for our survivability. With the gear slots filling up fast now and the final gear starting to take serious shape, I decided to commit and upgrade my flesh render to a Tyrant Club. As you can see, the damage gets a big boost when you upgrade from a mid tier to a high tier item base. The final drop I got was a unique jewel, which turned out to be a 3/4 Death Call jewel. Nothing I'll ever use on this run, but they are fun to find, so I might as well show and tell. Most of the prep is taken care of at this point, so I figured to go and grab the rest of the keys. In the halls of Vought lives Nihlathak. From the entrance, this area splits into 4 roads, but unlike the Arcane Sanctuary, there is a tell to know which way to go. Look at the eyes to the left of my character. These show you where he is. Every road has a different tell, but if you just go where the eyes are, you're usually right. And if not, it's a small area, so no big deal. Normally this is one of the most difficult grinds in the game, but like I've said earlier, I've almost reached the damage reduction cap and am at maximum fire resistance, so not even his corpse explosion, which would normally turn your character into red mist, is a problem anymore. What was most key about this farm is that it only took me 12 runs to find all the 3 keys of destruction I need. Much more enjoyable than the infinity plus 1 countess runs I had to do. I was done in less than an hour, on a Barbarian. That might be a lifetime personal best for me. I usually schedule in an entire afternoon for this. Love that for me. 6 keys down, 3 more to go. Having found the first 6 keys, it was time to craft again, for a ring this time. Dreadband rolled very low on the life leech, but brought it all back with the grand total of 68 resistances. Almost a very nice ring. Finding the hate keys was the toughest of the 3. The tight corridors of the sanctuary prohibit walking around enemies, and it is filled with physical immunes that drain your mana, putting you to a complete stop because our barbarian can only lift his arms when his blue ball is full. It's a good thing I postponed going here. The runs here were tedious, but I am happy to report that I was getting through them without too many problems. Good thing too, it would be a really bad thing if I was thinking we were almost ready to do the Ubers and it turned out we couldn't make it to the Summoner. That would make me very sad. But just a couple dozen runs later, we are not sad at all, because we have all the hate keys we need, which means we only have a few more things to do before it's go time. I still want a better source of Cannot Be Frozen, but we might get lucky and free roll into it while doing the other thing that we still have to do. Remember all the way back at the start of Nightmare I fumbled around and found out, well, it's time to pay the price of wasting a respec. I used my first two at the start of Nightmare and my third one to get back into the maze build when I found the Heaven's Light. For the Ubers I want to run my build differently, which means it's time to go and kill Diablo and Baal until they drop their essences. I've already picked up the other two along the way, so fortunately I only have those two to run. Diablo was the first on my hit list. As a test drive to see how ready we are, I decided to fight him on players 8, which went slow and steady, but we won the race. And after a few times of doing that, and a few more times, and just a few more times after that, he dropped the essence I was looking for. 3 down, 1 to go. For Baal's essence I did the same thing, put him on players 8 and started hitting him a lot. If only I knew how much I was going to do of that in the Uber fight, I would not have bothered here, cause man did I get sick of Mr. Tentacle Spectacle in Tristram. Anyway, after a few runs he dropped the goods, completing our essence set. With that, we only have one more thing of prep to do. Look for some other source of Cannot Be Frozen, because I really don't want to have to use a hearth when I have 3 other helms that will do amazing. During all of this I picked up some echoing swords as well. Those are swords that have +3 to the Warcries tree, meaning they are better at pre-buffing your battle orders than Spirit is. It's not a lot, and I would never bother to spend time to look for them, but I'm not one to say no to a random free roll. I could only come up with one plan to find Cannot Be Frozen, and it is the most tried and true tested dogshit plan anyone who has ever played this game will see coming from a mile away. I started farming. A lot. See, Diablo 2 is like a slot machine. If you spin the loot wheel often enough, something you can use will pop out. And with that wonderful plan that might take 2 minutes and might result in me not having uploaded a video in almost a month before this, you can guess how well that went. Oh, by the way, I also did my imbues. All 3 of them sucked. I now see why I just jammed them at level 19 on boots. Anyway, nothing in Sanctuary was safe anymore, whether you are dead or alive. If you have a health bar, I'm coming for you. There were some random cutesy drops happening like this grand charm that turned out to be a crack of the heavens. And while I'm happy for heaven that they are enjoying their crack, they should just put it in a pipe and smoke it instead of dropping it on the ground. If it doesn't have Cannot Be Frozen, I don't care for it anymore. For hours upon hours I followed and farmed wherever the terror zones lead me. I farmed the council in Travincal, their boss Mephisto, and who knows where else. I picked up the Credendum belt along the way, which puts my belts in the same situation as my helms, in that I get to choose between resistances or physical damage reduction. I'd prefer the damage reduction, but I need to pay the resistance price to be able to do so. I finally spun the wheel and hit the jackpot in the underground passage where a ring dropped. This turned out to be a Raven Frost, the best source of Cannot Be Frozen I can imagine. It had a fantastic roll on its stats, as well as it goes 150 to 250 on the attack rating and 15 to 20 on the dexterity. Saying I was very pleased would still be an understatement. I was ecstatic to find this. I couldn't have dreamed up a better scenario. To round out all the preparations, I did some normal countess runs for some Neph runes. I had a few perfect rubies laying around, and I figured I might as well go and see if I can get some better crafted gloves. The first few pairs of gloves didn't roll very great or good or reasonable, they were just trash. The last pair did do well though. 2 bow skills I will never use. 20 increased attack speed, 9% crushing blow, a bit of life, a dash of attack rating, and 24 magic find that I will also never use. Time for the final checks. To pre-buff Fade, I stood in the fire next to the River of Flame waypoint, and let's see what my resistances are looking like. A 197 fire resist, that's plenty. 204 cold resist, you love to see it. 207 lightning resist, yikes, we are going to need almost 100 more of that to hit the 300 we are aiming for. And 147 poison resist, which is fine, poison doesn't matter, cause you can just drink an antidote to stop it completely. Missing 93 lightning resist is not acceptable though, so we are going to need to wear our rock stopper for the Mephisto fight, netting us another 34. My socket quests end up lining up perfectly though. My armor is a rune word and one of my weapons naturally has a socket already, so I can socket 3 things. I know what my socketed weapon will be, leaving me with enough socket quest rewards to have Lazuk jam a hole into 2 different helms. I put an Ord rune in the Rockstopper, getting it up to 64% lightning resist and making us only 29 short to get to the magical 300, which is perfect cause Lionheart has 30 resist all. So after forgetting to switch the armors after triggering Fade, I can run around with about 29% lightning resist less than I would like. Like I said, I'm using a socket quest on my second weapon. Ignore me not having the strength, that is just because I was trying out some gear setups. The flesh render has a bit of it naturally, but I need way more, so for its socket I decide to put in an rune, putting it at 50% chance of open wounds, which is still much less than I would like, but we are going to have to make do with it, cause I see no consistent way of getting more without going back to Malice, and I'd rather not cause I like actually dealing damage. My final socket quest gets used on the Vampire Gaze. I didn't really know what I wanted to put in here, so I kind of just defaulted into using an rune for some resistances. Looking back, I probably should have put a perfect diamond in it for the 100 extra attack rating, but hindsight is 20/20, so it is what it is. With the gear decided on and fully prepped, this is it. The setup is complete. We are going to run into the Ubers with these items and it will have to be enough. No fancy rune words, no crazy gear, just some random items and a lot of stubbornness. It is time to go and get into my final build. I use the essences to create a token of absolution and reset my stats. Stat wise, I'm going much more conservative this time around, doing the old tried and tested stats for gear, rest into vitality. In the main game you can run with 2000 life, even on hardcore, and never have a problem. The Ubers however are a different story and you need every point you can get. Skill wise I'm going into battle orders for its massive boost to life and mana. A few points into battle cry to lower the damage and defense of the bosses. I'm of course maxing out the mace mastery, cause it's the best skill we have. I would even pick it over battle orders if I would have to choose. And I set all the check marks in the 1-point wonders. I'm not mucking about this time. I do not want to have to look for the token of absolution again. I put a few extra points into natural resistances to help with, well, my natural resistances. Frenzy gets it 20 points of course. I put one in Berserk, which looking back I shouldn't have. I'm going to use another strategy to deal with physical immunes. So this is just 3 wasted skill points because of force of habit. Annoying, but not too big a deal. The final skill points is where the build is changing the most. I'm putting 10 points into Howl. I mentioned earlier how in Uber, Tristram enemies just spawn in and you can't grind through them. Instead, I'm just going to yell at them until the problem disappears, which is also why the Berserk points are a waste. Any physical immune that gets in my way can just be howled away. The last 10 skill points go into Taunt, which is a synergy of Frenzy and gets it some more damage. And that's it, the final build. No more excuses, no more postponing, no more grinding. To recall that wise man from the beginning of the video once again, it is time to nut up or shut up. I prefer opening the portals one by one, so that if my game crashes or something happens and I can't finish the run or brick it, I only have to get 1 of each instead of 3. So I grab the first set of keys, 1 terror, 1 hate and 1 destruction, and open the first portal. Which area you get is always random. The second one will be one of the other 2 and the third one will always complete the set as long as you stay in the game. For our first one we get the Furnace of Pain. This area looks like the red portals you can find in Act 5 that no one ever bothers with. In here we find pit lords that are immune to everything except getting punched in the face, which works for me. It's all we are doing after all. There are some Doom and Oblivion Knights here as well. It's basically just a giant path that plays like the Chaos Sanctuary, but instead of the ghouls that do nothing but annoy you and that drain your mana, we have the harmless teleporting things from Act 5. An excellent set of monsters to roll, and Hazard and I make our way through them no problem. At the end of the area we find Izual. His location is random, but he just happens to be at the end of it this time around. The fight with the demon went very smooth. I even realized I had still forgotten to do a few things. See, I still have a Lem rune from the Hellforge. I could make Hazard a Treachery as well. I also forgot to give him the Kelpie snare. But even with me forgetting just about everything I need to do, we still defeated the demon and claimed Mephisto's brain. I don't want to know why he had that. Was he giving Mephisto brain? Did Mephisto give him brain? Disgusting stuff all around. So let's move on. Another set of keys goes in the cube and Hazard gets his Kelpie snare before I open up the second portal. The second portal opens up to the Forgotten Sands, so our second boss is going to be Duriel on the crack the heavens dropped instead of smoked. Seriously, this guy has no chill. Well, he does due to his aura, but he doesn't. I enter the portal and before even being able to do my battle orders, the demon is already bashing in our face like it's the year 2000 all over again. I should tell the owner of the tombs to lock up next time. His Duriel escaped into the desert. However, spawn camping loading screens is a much worse strategy when people have gigabytes of RAM instead of lukewarm suggestions of RAM. And we managed to get into a position where the giant bug is slowed down to a crawl while the two of us are swinging and poking at him. One little trip to town was needed to refill on potions. But besides that, yet another very smooth fight. After his demise, I grab Baal's eye. 2 down, 4 more to go. Taking the final set of keys, I open the final portal. This is the scary one, the Matron's Den. This area looks like the crypt and the mausoleum, those 2 tombs next to Bloodraven in the first act. In here we are going to be looking for Lilith. Yes, that very same Lilith that got her own game in Diablo 4. She is not happy about being a mini-boss in this game and she will let us know. Just like for the other 2 mini-Ubers. Her spawning location is randomized. Turns out she is quite a bit in the back in a corner. Now I fully expect her to be able to kill me a few times. So to make sure I can reach my corpse when it happens, I lure her all the way back to the beginning where the red portal spawned. That sounds awful, but I turn out to have a hard time even staying ahead of her until she gets stuck on some scenery. So it wasn't bad at all. Now that I know that if something goes wrong, I will be able to grab my corpse in just a few seconds, I can go into the fight playing much more aggressive than I normally would. Even with the combination of Battle Cry decreasing her damage and the 75% slow being applied, making her move at only a quarter speed, she is still able to drain my entire life total in just a few seconds. Her damage output is just unreal, but in the end she does just have Andariel's moveset with more damage, so a lot of full rejuvenation potions later. Down she goes, dropping Diablo's horn. With the mini-Ubers defeated, we can make our way back into Act 2 normal to grab a 3-socket armor for Hazarda and put a Treachery in it, so he can get the nice fade skill and increased attack speed as well. Back in hell, the eye, brain and horn go into the cube to open up the portal to Uber Tristram. This place has the exact same layout as regular Tristram, where you go to save Cain on your playthroughs, so the area will look very familiar. However, instead of a couple Fallens and maybe a skeleton or 2, in here you will fight the mightiest demons the game has to offer. Or, well, that is if I could find any of them. Unless you are speedrunning, you want them to be split up. The best is having one all the way to the west, one in the south and one in the east, so you have room to deal with all 3 of them. Lady Luck is taking a shit or something though, cause all of them are clumped together in the middle of town, surrounded by buildings, and the close proximity means every single monster is starting to spawn in. Bluntly said, it's not looking good. This is a giant mess from the start. There is no way in Tristram that I can deal with all 3 of them at the same time. Even luring out one of the 3 almost cost me my life. It takes a bit of wrangling and a lot of finagling and a bit of swearing at my screen. But Mephisto ends up getting stuck in the burning house, unable to follow me. To clean things up a bit more, I'm also using Howl to move some skeletons into the castle in an attempt to keep the red portal as safe as possible. Now to split up the other 2. I figured with Baal being a bit slow and Diablo being way faster than he usually is, I could just run through the middle of town and have him follow me. My instinct turned out to be correct, and after running through, the 3 demons are split up, with Baal in the middle, Mephisto in the east and Diablo in the west. That is 1 problem solved, 3 more to go. Diablo did kind of lock me in a cage, but between Howl chasing away all the random trash mobs and Fade doing its job, I have enough time to break the bone cage. With Howl making sure that it's just him, Hazard and I, our planning and strategy shines through again. The demon gets battle cry applied and the Kelpie snare slows him down to a crawl. I end up running out of potions just on the final brink of his life total, so just before the end I had to get back to town. I was not gone for long, but when I came back, he had about an 1/8 of his life total back already. The life regeneration on these guys is insane. Diablo's is nothing compared to Baal's, but let's wrap this guy up first. Or that is at least what I would have liked to do. But tonight, Baal joined the hunt as he suddenly shows up right next to me. This won't work. They need to split up again. I start running to the bottom left corner of the area, luring whatever boss will follow me along. It turns out to be Baal. I didn't care which one of the 2 would follow as long as they were split up, so that works for me. With Baal temporarily out of the picture again, Diablo is waiting for me. He has some friends that are just chilling there, but Howl is rated E for everyone, except bosses. For some reason the pit lords just won't leave us alone, despite me doing a lot of shouting at them. But with Diablo's life total being so low, it doesn't matter. About 20 seconds of fighting later, Big Daddy Diablo is defeated. With him being right there, I figured the next one might as well be Baal. Now in the normal game, he is mostly just annoyingly tanky. Here however, he is very annoyingly tanky. As usual, he can spawn clones that you can get rid of by just going back to town and waiting 8 seconds. So that happens a few times before the fight gets properly going. And boy, what a fight it is. Just like with Diablo, I'm howling away all the monsters that spawn in. Now if you've never seen Baal get slowed by a Kelpie snare, you are in for a treat. He literally just stops functioning. His attacks become so slow that they fail. He cannot do anything anymore, which is fine. I like that there is this very potent cheese strat if you get lucky and know how to do it. The problem in this fight comes from a different angle. In the main game, this guy is tanky, like really tanky. He just doesn't do much and takes forever to kill. His Uber version is the same way, but more of it. For the life of me, I could not get this guy to die at first. I have over 25 minutes of footage of me just hitting this stupid punching bag, and all that kept happening is that I hit him a few times, then didn't hit him enough to trigger open wounds, and he would regenerate his health again, over and over and over and over. After 25 minutes of this, I realized that I needed a way to hit him more often. Remember when I mentioned that the angelic combo saved the run? Well, this is how. I changed out my High Lords and my sweet dual leech resist all ring for the angelic amulet and ring, skyrocketing my attack rating to over 10,000. Now it was time to see if this was enough of an improvement to my chance to hit to get enough open wounds from the flesh render to bleed the demon to death, cause it's obvious that just swinging at him isn't going to cut it. Now he wasn't going to go down without being a dick about things. Every single time I had to run away to howl a monster or just didn't connect often enough with the open wounds, this guy would just casually regenerate piles of health. I mean, look at this shit. I howled away one zombie wizard and when I get back, Baal has 30% of his health back. That is just not cool. Another thing that kept happening is him going down to a sliver of his health, only to decide that today is not a fine day to die and just go and regenerate a bunch of health again. With him taking damage and getting close without being able to damage me at all. It was just a matter of time before the demon took his final dive. But I ended up having to stand there and hold the button with the occasional howl and battle cry for another 15 very frustrating minutes. Down he went though. That's 40 minutes of my life I'm never seeing back. Thanks for that. I hope it was better for you than it was for me. Enjoy your eternal slumber. Time for the final of the three. Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred. The one we have been doing all the preparations for. The hardest fight out of all of them. Lilith might be dangerous, but she is nothing compared to Mephisto. He has a conviction aura going that lowers all your resistances by 125%. Cause that's all very fair and enjoyable. The first few minutes of the fight are spent trying to set up the same thing I had going versus Baal, where I can just howl away everything and fight the demon one-on-one. But the second I decide to go back to town to get Hazada the demon is hot on my tail, and my only option is to make sure he isn't right next to the portal, cause that would be a quick ride to Brick City. If you die and he is next to the portal, what happens is that every time you step through the portal, you get murdered on the spot. It's a bad time that is almost impossible to escape. Now I can hear you thinking, yes, I am telepathic. How else did you think breaking the fourth wall worked? Anyway, I can hear you thinking, why don't you just make a second town portal to get 2 points of entry? Well, because my dear viewer, the developers thought of this as well and they just flat out blocked it. You can't make a town portal in Uber Tristram, no matter how hard you would want to. Having lured Mephisto back into his cage, I get to clear out some more stuff to try and make something resembling an arena before getting Hazard back from the dead. With a new timer on fade, we run back into the red portal. This is the moment I have been preparing for. I've spent hours looking for ways to survive this fight and I'm sure I can do it. Well, turns out I can't. Despite the hours upon hours of prepping for this, Mephisto still just very easily takes me down from 3640 health to 0. Very impressive if it wouldn't have been me doing the deeds of being dead. Hazard turns out to be a very welcome distraction as I grab my corpse and make sure to not brick the run by luring the demon away from the red portal before taking another dead. Man, am I just so happy that I've spent so much time prepping for this. Just the happiest. Making my escape, I get my Fade swag back on again, and I know what I have to do. I can't be all tactical and use strategy. I'm a barbarian, I only speak one language, my native tongue, violence. I'm sick of getting bullied and having to do what the game wants me to do. I've done it all and I've done it my way. I'm not letting some jacked up version of Mephisto tell me how to do things. So I just storm at him and start swinging with everything I've got while chugging rejuve so fast my grandchildren will be born with fetal alcohol syndrome. The fight ends up being a fast and furious affair. After moments of slugging at each other, the Lord of Hatred is the one whose health bar reaches 0 first and victory is mine. I pick up the standard of heroes and the unique large charm before making my way into town. And there you have it. We have made it through normal, nightmare, hell, the key grind, the mini Ubers and finally the Ubers themselves. This barbarian can finally stop running. Tristram still burns, but hey, can't win them all. To finish things off, I want to give a big thank you to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. You can find my affiliate link in the top pinned comment and the description. And of course to you, for watching this video. I know it was a long one, but I hope you had fun nonetheless. Another big thank you to the channel members and Patreons. It is still a wild ride to me that people support my rambling about video games, but it's a ride I'm definitely here for. Oh, and don't worry, I didn't forget to identify the torch. Here you go. It's a 1815 Necromancer torch. Wish I had that on my next video. With everything being said and done, this run has been plenty long enough, so I'm gonna get out of here. I wish you all the best and I'll see you in the next one.